Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to this week's episode of the Gaston's Grade podcast. Due to our scheduled guest having to reschedule, we are re-releasing one of our most popular episodes with Susanna Kavanaugh in Least of These Carolinas. Please be on the lookout for another new episode next week. Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 128 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we're coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization again this week and are fortunate to have Susanna Kavanaugh with us today, who is the Executive Director of Least of These Carolinas. Susanna, it's great to have you on and welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Shockingly, I was looking back. It was episode number 800 years ago. I mean, literally almost exactly 3 years ago. So, like we were talking before we started recording, I was just shocked to realize it was that long ago. So, lots of things have happened. So, really, what we want to focus on today is what has happened in the last 3 years. What's the changes going on? I know personally, I know a lot of the things that have been going on, but I'm sure we'll have some first-time listeners who have not heard the other episode. So just an abbreviated version real quick, a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share, and then kind of just share what is Least of These Carolinas, quick overview, mission, and how it got started maybe. But again, then we'll just get into what's been going on in the last few years.
Sounds good. I am a mom and a wife. I've been a wife for almost 26 years, and I have 4 children, 2 of which were adopted through foster care. So me and my husband were foster parents. So about 11 years ago, we started Least of These Carolinas to be able to give back to children that were in foster care. And the reason we started it is because we knew our house was only so big. And so we could only take so many in. And so felt like I could be a little bit more powerful if I could go out and speak about it and create something great that lives beyond us and goes beyond our own home. And so that's kind of where Least of These Carolinas was birthed. And honestly, it was first Least of These Gaston, because we had we had no idea we would at some point move outside of Gaston County as well. But anyway, the mission of Least of These Carolinas is to impact the quality of life for children affected by foster and kinship care, obviously in a positive way. And so we do that in a variety of ways through all of our programs. A Bag of Hope is the biggest probably thing that we do, and that is a large duffel bag with the child's name embroidered in their favorite color. You have no idea what that does for kids to get a bag with things in it just for them and to have their name on it.
That little personalization makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Everything we do is personalized for these kids. So that's kind of where we started. And, 3 years ago, I'm trying to think of what has happened since then. But overall, we're just here to serve these kids and love on them. And last year, I think we served over 1,000 just at Christmas time, because we do a Christmas program. We did almost 1,000 bags of hope last year. And so just, enjoying the ride, I guess, but trying to impact children that are in the foster care system. In Gaston County alone, we have about, I think it's 350 to 400 kids right now. Okay,
wow. Yeah, if I was a good podcast host, I would have went back and listened to episode 8 before today, but I did not. That it would have given me a good feel for, some of those numbers and stats that you shared back then. So just real quick, I shouldn't say real quick, but just kind of share what has happened. I know time runs together, so for me, I know it's always hard for me to put time frames together sometimes, but what has happened in the last 3 years? What are the big things that you've seen going on with the organization? And of course, I'll always like that question. Maybe I'll finish with that one. Is compared to 11 years ago, is it just completely gone beyond anything you could have imagined when you first started? And I think I asked you a similar question 3 years ago, and even then, and it's even expanded, I know, beyond that.
Yes. In the last 3 years, one thing we have expanded to the west, and so our bags actually are delivered as far as Asheville, and we do that with the help of a company called Centos. They were like, we have delivery trucks, and we deliver all over North Carolina, and I'm like, check. That meets one of our requirements. And so we partner with them, and then we also partner with different car dealerships in these areas. And so these bags of hope are dropped off at these car dealerships, and then the foster parent gets a text saying, hey, your bag's ready, come to this address and pick it up. So probably in the last 3 years, we've really expanded out west more. The other thing we did is about 1.5 years ago, we started the Hummingbird House initiative. And the Hummingbird houses, there's 2 now, but basically on any given day in the state of North Carolina, if you walked into a DSS office around 7:30 in the morning, you're going to discover there are children sleeping there. They're pulling up their cots because it's a work day, but they're sleeping there. And so I don't want to pick on Gaston County because it happens in every county. And I wanted to do something about that. I've wanted to do something about it for a very long time. But another county had done something similar, and sometimes the path is easier if it's already been done.
Sure.
And so because it had already been done, we kind of jumped on, and we actually now have 2 Hummingbird houses. And the reason we did a Hummingbird house and why we named it Hummingbird House is we don't want kids sleeping in the office, but these kids, when they are brought into custody, I mean, they're like a hummingbird, right? Like their wings are flapping, and they just need to sit and rest for just a minute before they move on. And so what the Hummingbird House has meant to children, we're in contract with 3 different counties, so it's not just Gaston County that uses our house, or our houses, but it means that maybe it's a sibling set of 6, because that happens all the time. Maybe they get to stay together for the next 7 to 14 days before they're split up. Maybe they get to, talk about the trauma that they've been through and deal with that a little bit before they are split up. Or maybe it just gives those social workers a little bit more time to find the right home for that child or those children. And so it's just, we have Jessica that works for us. She runs it, and she does a great job of making sure it's clean. It really functions as like an Airbnb, if you will. Okay. And we partner with some area churches. We don't own the houses. We kind of lease them from churches, and it just works out really well. These churches had empty houses, and we had a problem that they could solve. And so it's just worked out beautifully. And so now I think we're going into our 2nd year with both of the Hummingbird houses up and running.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that definitely, I don't recall hearing that a few years ago. Another quick, just to clarify, you said out west, just to clarify, that's counties west of Gaston County, yes. Not Wyoming.
We're not in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
But that would
out west. When
yet.
We say out west, we mean like Asheville, North Carolina.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
for sure.
And I should know this, but were you already in the building on Wilkinson, Franklin, when we spoke last?
I think so. Y'all did our roof, so I'm pretty sure we were. That was kind of how we connected.
Okay, it may have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So has anything changed there with the facility and the activity there? Anything in the last 3 years? Because I think it was right about that time. It seemed like. Yeah, we've
hired a couple more people, but other than that, the building's pretty much the same. We wish we had more parking. If y'all could create more parking spaces for us, that would be really great.
So isn't Kate's empty? Do y'all get to use that facility, or is that off limits?
It's blocked off. We can't use their parking because
Sorry.
they're trying to lease it.
Yeah,
which I
get
completely understand. It's hard to lease, and a big trucks like to ride on their property, and that doesn't do anything for the pavement and everything. So we understand that we can't park there. So we park on the street, and we park across into that Franklin Square, and anywhere. I've tried to talk somebody into building parking on top of our building. I think that'd be great. Do you think it would hurt the roof?
I'll have no comment probably for that.
No, that was just an idea.
Area of expertise. I don't know if you can remember. This is why I should have listened to the previous episode. Has the number of kids served? Obviously, if you're going further west, it would seem logical that the number of kids being served has expanded and changed. Is that something that you kind of have a feel for?
Yes. Just last year, we were serving 62% more children last year than we were the prior year. So, yes, we are serving a ton more children, which just takes more of everything, right?
Yeah.
So it takes more technology. We rely heavily on technology. I would say in the last 3 years, we've really upped our technology game because we have to have a database, and we have to be able to we can't do paper, like we have to be able to take these requests and work through those really quickly. And so a lot of our technology needs have been upgraded. Our technology has been upgraded because of that. And then back to your question, did I think that it would be where we are 11 years ago? Nope. Absolutely not, because I definitely wouldn't have signed up for it. I've been like, this seems like a lifelong commitment, and I don't know that I was ready for that 11 years ago, but God's been gracious and getting me there. But it has been exciting to see where he's taken us and the kids he's allowed us to serve. And I will just say that the need is great and probably greater than anybody really realizes.
That was going to be my next question was, have you seen in the last 3 years, has the need increased, or you're just getting access to a broader area and more kids, or has the need increased at the same time?
I think both. COVID really did a number on foster homes, and so probably the most desperate need right now is more foster homes. And so there's just people are not opening up their homes to the children, which just causes ripple effects, right? Like it runs down to the social workers, because if you place a Gaston County kid 3 counties away, that social worker still has to visit with that kid. So then that social worker is on the road, and that trickles down to the guardian ad litem, who is the voice for that child in court. That means that guardian ad litem volunteer has to travel 3 counties away to meet with the child. That means that mom and dad, maybe their plan for reunification doesn't go very smoothly because the child's 3 counties away. So when you can't place children in foster care in their own communities, it just has ripple effects that I don't think people understand. And then I don't think people understand how hard it is for a child to come into foster care. There has to be some pretty significant abuse, neglect for the state or the county to even take a child. So by the time a child comes into care, their trauma is it's unimaginable, some of the things that they've already been through. And so having safe homes, it doesn't have to be a perfect home. You don't have to be a perfect mom or dad. You can be a single mom. You can be a single dad. You can work full time. All of those things do not keep you from being a foster parent. And so I just have to do a shout out for that. If anybody is thinking about being a foster parent, please call our office and let me talk to you about it and kind of guide you through that, because
Sure.
it is definitely a need in our community.
Yeah, we'll definitely, like before, we'll make sure we get all that contact information out before we finish, and then it'll make sure it's in the show notes and information for this particular episode. Am I correct in saying ultimately the perfect scenario is reunification with family? Correct? That's the typical goal, right? And I can imagine it being. Well, I'll let you answer that. I'm sorry, I'm opening my fat mouth before I.
No, you're fine. Reunification is always, always, always the goal.
Right.
And I think that sometimes if you don't get to know these biological parents, maybe you can be harsh towards them. But what we find is a lot of the biological families, especially in Gaston County, it is more of neglect, or it's, this is usually what happens, or not usually, but sometimes it's as simple as somebody's car broke down on their way to work. And if your car broke down, you probably call your brother. You called somebody would come and get you. These people don't have community around them so
Right.
If they don't get to work, maybe they lost their job. So then they lost their job. Now they've lost income to feed their kids. Now they've lost, and now it's just a downhill slope of, now I've lost my children. And so we are trying to come around the biological families as well to help. We can't really help with the reunification process, but we can definitely kind of cheer on these biological families and really try and help them. We've just launched, in partnership with Venture Church, something called Families Count. And Families Count is actually a parenting class that these parents can come to once a week for 6 weeks, where they're given food. They get childcare, but then they get this class teaching them on how to budget, how to do this, how to do that. And so what we're hoping is, by supporting not only the foster parents and the foster children, but if there's a preventative piece in here for us, we want to be a part of that, because if you can prevent the trauma of a child ever leaving their home, that's the best scenario.
Sure.
Best scenario. So we absolutely are big proponents of reunification.
So to your point, if I haven't learned anything from running a almost 300 person company and my involvement with so many community organizations is we don't know the stories and the circumstances that families deal with. We just don't know. We can be quick to make an assumption and judge, and one interaction make this judgment that that kid needs to be somewhere else or whatever. And I don't mean just with what you deal with, but some of the other things that I've seen and been involved with, and that's been a humbling experience for me, is to become just more aware of, the circumstances that others have to deal with, and especially with my, for lack of a better description, my life that I'm able to, live and deal with. We take so many things for granted when you're not in those situations. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and a lot of times it is, you'll find that a biological parent has lost their child to foster care. Well, that biological parent was in foster care. And so this cycle that we have to break. And so if you didn't have a great role model as a mom and dad to tell you how to do it, then how are they supposed to do it? And so we're starting to provide more and more of those kind of services they just need a hand up. They need somebody that cares enough to look at them and help them, because life is hard. It's hard to find a job right now. It's hard to live in this world right now. And can you imagine if you had zero support? And a lot of these bio families have zero support.
Yes. Again, that's why we want to have this discussion, right? Because I think there's a lack of awareness, as the world has, we got this world, it seems that it's gotten bigger, but our individual world seems to have gotten smaller. I'm lucky to live in a neighborhood where I know 90% of my neighbors in the neighborhood. But my understanding is that's typically not what we're seeing now, right? Mm-hmm. People are, because of technology, whatever, they're not communicating as much, or not. It's just a strange. It's just a little strange. So. I'm going to go back to a question that I did ask you, I know 3 years ago, but in the last 3 years, can you think of because I love this question, about an example of a success story you've seen with a family you've worked with, or a foster child that you've worked with, that just immediately comes to mind, like, wow, that reminded me of the reason we started doing this?
There is a child that when we first had camp, she was young then. She was probably 8 or 9 years old, and she's still in care, and she's been in a whole lot of homes. But she will finally, I think this year, be her last year of camp. And I don't know if she's a success story, but just when you ask me that, I just think of her and think of all that she's been through. And she's a straight A student. But she's been through a lot, and we've kind of walked her through all of that. And her one wish every summer is, can I still come to bridge camp? And we're like, yeah, you can come to bridge camp. Yeah. So I would say she probably inspires a lot of us, at least of these. She doesn't make perfect decisions by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know. And it just is a picture of why we do what we do, but also she's been in foster care since she was 8 or 9 years old, and she's almost 17.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What's the typical, is there like a specific age that foster care, once you get to a certain age, foster care ends? How does that, somebody that ignorant like me, I don't know.
Well, typically it's 2 to 3 years in foster care, and then you may be adopted.
Okay.
But the legal system is probably not going to allow for termination of parental rights unless they have an adoptive home waiting. Okay. This youth that I'm talking about, I think, has had several failed adoptions. So the termination of rights has never happened, which is heartbreaking, right? Failed adoptions, you don't want to hear that, but that actually happens more than you would think. But yeah, to answer your question, there really isn't. You could be in foster care a week. That's not really common, but you're going to at least be in foster care, I would say, a year to 2 years. Okay. Before you are able, your biological parents work their plan, or you're able to be adopted, especially if you're going to be adopted. It's a 2 to 3 year situation.
When you say, again, this is a question, someone who's ignorant of it, when you say failed adoption, is that something that's typically, it just gets up to a point and then it doesn't happen, or they go to a family and then something doesn't work out, or what's typical there, or is that
There's
really
always a trial placement. There's always
Okay.
a time. And the parents that want to adopt have great aspirations, and they think that it's going to, but just something happens. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not what they thought they were getting into. Maybe they can't handle behaviors. Maybe, I don't know. There's a variety of reasons why adoptions fail. And it's just heartbreaking anytime that does happen. I think it's really hard to protect the children too from, it's a potential adoption. It's really hard not to use those words. It's hard not to say the right things all the time. I'll love you forever. You always have a place here, and then something happens, which probably leads to more failed adoptions, right? Because they don't trust it. And by the time you've been in foster care that long, you really don't trust anybody that says they want to love you a lifetime. And who blames them? I wouldn't blame them either. So there's just a variety of reasons. I wouldn't say there's one thing that makes an adoption not.
And that would be typical. It's rarely, my experience, it's rarely one thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure I asked you this question 3 years ago, but looking ahead, what's the vision now for the next 5 to 10 years or so? And then is it different? Is your vision now different than it was 3 years ago when we first spoke?
Yes, our vision is different, and we have a plan to continue to expand, but in a very strategic way. In the past, Least of These Carolinas' MO is, oh, you need us over there, we're coming. But now apparently we have to make strategic plans to get there and not just me say yes. And so we've got a great leadership team now in place, and we're starting to make, and we'll make more announcements as the year goes by, but big things are coming, but just more in a very planned, organized fashion, and not by the seat of our pants. I keep telling our staff, hey, we're kind of a big girl organization now. We kind of have to act like that a little bit. And so just stepping into that role of working on the organization and not so much in it.
Sure.
Which I'm sure you understand.
Oh, yeah. Yes, very much so.
It took me about 11 years to get there, but hey, I'm here now, and I'm like, okay, I want Least of These Carolinas to be here when I'm 70 years old rocking my grandbabies on my front porch. I don't want I want this to live on, and I think everybody at our organization, the board, down to every staff member and volunteer wants the same thing.
All right, so yeah, that's interesting. I know even now there's days when I struggle with what I'm supposed to be doing here at GSM every single day, how to best utilize my time, because I will get involved in the weeds and I will just mess everything up.
That's pretty much what I do when I get into the weeds.
I appreciate you not having any comment there, Naomi. Is that an accurate comment, Abby? So if you're not, Abby's in the background here. She's actually seems to be the one who really knows what's going on, at least with these Carolinas, but she was unwilling to get on camera, but we're going to ask her some more questions here in a minute probably. So listen, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything, and this is for you too, actually, Abby, is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked? Anything that has really just jumps out in the last 3 years? Anything that I've missed? Anything that she should have shared, Abby, that she hasn't? Besides having a great assistant now?
The best assistant ever.
Everyone can do something, but you talked on
Yes.
I think that there's a place that everyone fits in caring for vulnerable children in foster and kinship care.
Yeah, if you can't hear her in the background, basically it's a great point for so many things we get involved with, but everybody has a place and can do something. Is that a good way to paraphrase that? Yeah. We'll be sure to touch on before we finish, what are your current needs that you have, and is there anything specific going on in events and things that y'all might have coming up? Because we don't look at schedules and time when we have people on here, because more than once we've had to record a podcast and they're having an event next week and the episode doesn't release until 2 weeks after that. So I'm like, that's some bad timing. So that's how we roll here at GSM at most inopportune times. So again, we'll make sure our listeners know how to get in touch with you guys, find out, and we'll come back and swing back to make sure we cover all that. However, like we always do with our guests, and I may even make Abby answer some of these questions. We have these super important questions, and they're going to be different than the first time you were on. So we can't go back and check your answers relative to the last episode. So this is going to be we're moving west speed round of questions. I come up with a dumb name every time we do this. So, Susanna, what's your favorite movie?
Well, I'm going to say I'm going to use this actually because there's a new movie coming out and we have screened it, and it's called what is the name of it? I couldn't think of it. Sound of Hope, but it's the Possum Trot story, and it comes out July 4th, so this will air before then. But go get tickets. We actually, if you use our code, which you can go to our website for, but we will get proceeds from that. But the story of Possum Trot and the Sound of Hope, it's from the same folks that gave y'all Sound of Freedom last year.
Okay.
But it's all about how a little tiny Texas town decided to actually take this issue of children in foster care that were waiting on adoptive homes, and they adopted all the children that needed homes. So that's my favorite movie right now.
Okay, well, that's pretty impactful, and I don't know how to follow that, but I'll ask you anyway.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay,
I don't
good.
Follow that. No, not Sound of Hope. But I
Oh.
was going to say the same thing. Mine is not as impactful. That's a really good one. That's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
My favorite movie is, now I've lost the name of it. Oh, Home Alone. Even though it's a Christmas movie.
Okay,
I
Home
can
Alone's
watch
good.
that
That's
any
classic,
time of
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Home Alone is unbeatable.
Well, you know what? It's a kid surviving, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
There you
Against
go.
two.
Very impactful.
Against,
Thanks for tying that in.
and especially against, was it Joe Pesci was one of the bad guys? That's funny. All right, I'll stick with you, Abby. Favorite vacation spot?
Oh, that's easy. St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, wow, yeah. I've never been there, but I've heard it's terrific.
Beautiful, old, and fun to explore.
Absolutely. Susanna?
Anywhere with a beach.
Okay. What's the last TV or online series or movie you streamed?
I'm currently watching Madam Secretary. I love that show.
I'm not familiar with that. But that sounds like a show I wouldn't be familiar with. That's not a judgment. It's just a statement.
I'm late to the game, but I'm watching How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, okay.
I'm in season 2.
I've heard good things about that. Favorite memory as a child, which was just a couple
Gardening
years
with my
ago,
Nana.
obviously.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Gardening with my Nana.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's cool.
my favorite. I now try to adopt her green thumb, but
Yeah.
it doesn't work out as good as she does.
Yeah, luckily my wife has a pretty good green thumb.
Progress.
I do not. I will kill something that grows in a heartbeat.
Playing hide and go seek at my daddy's office.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I'd have to go to work with them on Saturdays, and all three of us, we'd play hide and seek, and it was just fun.
Oh, that's funny. That's good. So how about, I know I asked this question before, but it's been 3 years. So a book or anything, article, another podcast, and y'all need to plug your podcast, of course. But anything that you can share that you would recommend to our listeners?
My favorite book right now is Who Not How. It is a business book, but it is,
I've read it.
isn't it the best?
It's interesting, yes.
It's so good.
It sure is, yes.
And then obviously our podcast is my favorite, Foster Carolinas. We are relaunching that very soon. Abby?
Honestly, those are two very good answers. I would say the same thing. The Who Not How has been beneficial to start reading, and I really am partial to our podcast. So
Well, good for you. Yeah. Now, also, I would admit sometimes I don't allow the same answers, but
Oh, okay.
we'll allow that just
Yeah, I
because
appreciate
I like you both very much. So,
Awesome.
I appreciate your indulgence in a couple of those little questions. So, I've got one more related question that I think the last time the question I always end with is what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? So I may. Are you even 20?
I'm 25.
Okay.
I age
So-
close.
I can't wait to hear Abby's 20-year-old. Like, what would you have told yourself 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Let me think about it.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple
probably
minutes
should
because
tell
I want to
myself
ask
that
Susanna a question that I asked her before. But I think the question was, why is Gaston County better? Because Least of These Carolinas here. But so I'm going to ask this a little bit differently. Why is Least of These Carolinas better? Because what you guys have done and accomplished in the last 3 years.
We're better because we have greater capacity to serve children in foster care.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And Abby wasn't on the team 3 years ago. Is that correct?
No.
Close to it.
Close. Yeah,
2.5.
yeah. 2.5.
Alright.
She's been with us 2.5 years.
So there you go.
It's because of Abby, everything, all of it.
So, last question. I'll start with you, Abby. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would tell myself to stop talking as much and to listen more. Listen more to people, ask questions of people that know more, do more, have seen more life than I have.
Yes, if I had known that when I was 20.
I would tell myself that still now, too.
I'm afraid I didn't really start learning that until I was 35 to 40. Really listening is a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, really listening and hearing is a superpower. So, yeah. So, I'm not going to ask you that same question because we can go back and listen to your answer on episode 8. But if you could have coffee with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
That is a crazy question. Oh, honestly, it's easy. I'd have coffee with Jesus. I have some questions.
Oh, actually, that's almost one. That's the best answer probably, and for me personally. But I think one time somebody we had on that was with a religious organization. I was like, you can't answer that. That's too easy. But for you, I have no problem with that.
I have a second. Probably Corrie ten Boom would be my second person to talk to.
Okay.
Or Susanna Wesley, actually. Actually, I have several.
All right.
So
I am not familiar with them, so can you give us a quick?
Corrie ten Boom was part of when the Jews were she was the hiding place. They had a hiding place where she hid. And then Susanna Wesley is who I was named for, but she was the mother of all of the Wesley brothers.
Really?
Yes, and I was named for her, so I would love to
I did not know that.
ask her about how she mothered and did all those things. So,
yeah, I have recently read and have multiple books about the Holocaust survivors, and I'm currently reading one from I think it's Heather Morris. I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz first, and then the second book is Silka's Journey, which I'm reading now. Which is that stuff just interests me, especially with some things going on in the world right now. That stuff just is really interesting, and God, how could that possibly have happened? But that's where we are.
yes.
So, sorry, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole that I have to say, my opinions aren't necessarily the opinions of GSM Services and the Gaston's Great Podcast. Give that disclaimer sometimes because more than once, Naomi's probably looked at me and said, "Did you really just say that on where people are we're recording?" All right, so this has been great. I personally appreciate the work you do. I'm very aware of the work you guys are doing, and the impact that you were having on Gaston County, and obviously not just Gaston County anymore, which is even better. Even though I'm selfish about Gaston County, but so current needs, events coming up. How can people find out more information about you guys? Where can they go to contact you? Just anything and everything that you can share for us.
You can go to our website, www.lotcarolinas.com. But if you would follow us on social media, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok at LOT Carolinas. And every Wednesday we post a wish list Wednesday. So if you're like, I want to do something, this is a very small thing, may seem like that, but we have Amazon list out there. And so every Wednesday we post exactly what we need in our closet so we can keep serving those children with those bags of hope. So just buy something and send it right to our door. That's really helpful. Events that we have coming up, we have a Shoes of Hope event in the very end of July, 1st of August. And so we're looking for volunteers for that. And then we also have camp coming up. So we're looking for volunteers for that. Our camp this year is going to be on Lake Lure. All of that you can find on our website. Events that we have coming up, we actually have a clay shoot in November, on November 15th. And so I think GSM should definitely put together a team. That's
a good Southern event.
It's a good Southern event. It's out in Waxhaw. And then in October, we have a Charlotte event, kind of more for the ladies, but men can come. It's called Bingo for Bags, and it's going to be a fun thing at Grand Bohemian. And all of that, like I said, you can find on our website. But any of those ways you could start plugging in and giving back to children in foster care.
So, volunteer, you just mentioned a couple of things. So, and the office can people come visit the office as well, or is that kind of a?
Yes, our favorite thing to do is give tours of our office, but yes, you can also come volunteer in our office. And again, that's on our website too. We don't have as big a need for daily volunteers, but we do need volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, you can find the location on the website, but if you're here local, it's right in front of the old Cape skating rink. And is it a Gastonia address or a Lowell address there?
The back corner's Lowell, but we're Gastonia.
Okay, so I was just curious there. I know that's right there near the intersection there at Redbud. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would love to have any, like Susanna just said, any visitors or anything would come get a tour of the facility and to kind of see what they're doing in person. So.
Yep.
Last words, anything you'd like to share before we close this episode out?
I did forget something. The first Thursday of every month, if you go to Bubba's and you mention us, they're going to donate to us. And we love Bubba's. They support us, but they also have really good food.
That's Bubba's 55, right, on Franklin, Franklin Square?
But in close, Bubba's 33.
33.
That's right.
What did I say?
It's Highway 55
Highway
and Bubba's
55, Bubba's 33. And we're here on June 12th, and it's at 10:48, sorry. To get all the numbers in that I can mess up.
But
I don't know where that came from.
That's so funny. In closing, though, I would just echo what Abby said, that everybody can do something for a child in foster care, and they can always call and reach out to us if they don't know what their something is. We definitely have a list of somethings that everybody can do.
And you mentioned this, but let me maybe close out with this before I do my little book recommendation and quote for the week. But what's the gap between the number of foster kids here? Let's just pick on Gaston County, and how many more foster homes are needed? Is that the biggest issue currently, other than the fact that there's foster care needed at all?
Yeah.
Is that a fair question?
I would say, if I'm just guessing, 40 to 50 more homes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's a lot.
That's significant, yeah.
But 40 to 50 more homes is what's going to be best for the kids that we're serving. They can stay in their community. They don't have to move. I mean, it's just so much better for them to be in their own community. And if we could recruit 40 to 50 more families, it would just change what foster care looks like in Gaston County.
Wow. Okay. What's that process like? What does it take? Let's say if somebody's never been a foster parent, what does that process look like?
There are classes you attend. I think it's 30 hours. You can get licensed through the county, but you don't have to. You can also go through private agencies. Doesn't cost you any money. It just means there's private agencies out there that do that.
Okay.
And if somebody's really interested, you can go on our website, look at the 411 on foster care, or call me and I'll tell you about the different agencies and the different, there's always trainings that are starting. And so if somebody's really interested, just call our office and we can tell you where the next training is and which agency is starting the next training.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we appreciate that. And maybe there's a listener out there who is going to be inspired maybe to consider that. So I was hoping you were going to say 10 or 12 homes. No.
That'd make a big difference too, but
Sure.
yeah.
I understand. But yeah, that need's great. So listeners out there, if you are so inspired, please consider it. So I'm going to finish up with my, like I normally do, my own book recommendation and quote for the matter of fact, the first time you were on, I don't know if I did this.
I don't remember.
But I've recently read a book. Again, this is another one that is not necessarily the opinion of GSM and Gaston's great podcast, but I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and one of his big books is 12 Rules for Life. Just basically, I don't know, for lack of a better term, how to live better and how to impact others better. Again, he's a psychiatrist, and just somebody I'm a big fan. I listen to his podcast almost weekly. And my quote for the week kind of ties into everything we talk about here on the Gaston's Great podcast. And one of my favorite guys and coaches of all time is John Wooden, who I would encourage you to look him up as well. But he said, all change may not be progress, but all progress is a result of change. And I think we heard here from at least of these Carolinas that whether it was planned or not, there's been a lot of change, a lot of progress that's occurred in 11 years, and especially just over the past 3 years. So, again, I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, at least of these Carolinas is doing. So, to our listeners, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, which is gastonsgreat.com. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. You can also find us and subscribe on most podcast services. Thanks again to Susanna and Abby from Least of These Carolinas for being our guests today. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.